Okay, I am going to try to vectorize this for engraving on a mug. First thing you do is you open your JPEG file, you make the artboard large enough, then I'm going to crop this down, crop, and now I might as well make my artboard a little bit smaller to make it fit. Okay, I'm going to, the first thing I try is, well, first I'm going to save this as an Illustrator file before I do anything else, because I did something useful for cropping it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to try is I'm going to try to do an image trace and just see how it turns out. So move that over there, select this, do preview. So it looks like we're going to get some weird shading issues on this. So see if you adjust this, it's gonna, oh, look at that. You may be in luck. Okay. So sometimes on these things you'll end up having to do like you have to like figure out what the font is and basically rebuild it. But in this case, it turns out this image appears to have been simple enough that we may be able to get away with just running an image trace on it. So trace, okay. And so now I'm gonna do, let's see, expand object and fill. There. And now you see how there's like some outlines around it because these are now vector lines instead of a raster thing. So if I hit Command Y, which on a Windows computer will be Control Y, you notice how we now have, it switches it to the vector outlines and ignores the colors. So now you can see what kind of vector outlines we are dealing with here, and they actually look pretty good. So I'm going to hit Control Y again so that we can see what these are. Oops. I'm going to hit Command A, which is going to be Control A, and ungroup this so that we can start fiddling with it. Ungroup, and I'm going to do that several times. Ungroup. Okay, it looks like it is now fully ungrouped. So now if we click just one part, we will get something. So I'm going to try selecting all of this and changing it so that it all has, oops, let's see, so that it all has no fill and a black stroke, and see what we get. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like with no fill and a black stroke. So now at this point what I would do is select all of this, and then I'm gonna, well actually, do we need this? Let's pull up the original file. Okay, that was an artifact of the cursor from the screenshot from the original picture, so we do not need that, so we can delete it. There. Let's hit Command Y to see what kind of vectors we've got here. Okay. So there are a couple of ways that we could go about this. We could, the original, let's see, the original image was silver in the center and black around the outside. We could make the outline engrave out silver and then leave the inside unengraved, or we could make the inside engrave out silver and create this, turn this outline here into an outline of an engraved outline. Which way you want to go with this probably depends on what color mug you tend to engrave this on. If you are going to engrave it on a black mug, I would consider that you kind of consider the contrast of what you're doing. So let's try a couple of different things with this. So let's make so I like to leave the original alone and mess with copies. So I'm going to try to do one of each. So I'm going to Control C or Command C for copy it and paste. And then I am going to select all of this, and then let's see if I can unselect some parts of this. Okay, so if I hit Shift minus and then click on something, it will unselect it. Or maybe I'll just do parts of the time. Let's do the fill, having it fill black first. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to do it bit by bit, and I'm going to reverse it. So let's flip that also. Select that. Flip that. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, you gotta just kind of play around with stuff and see what you think. Okay, so that doesn't look half bad, although I think that this outline, I personally would make it a little bit thicker to make it stand out a little bit more. So what I would do is I'd go to properties and see it says the stroke is 1 point right now, so I just kind of start sizing up that stroke size until it looks like what I'm trying to accomplish. Let's see. So notice when I did this, I'm upsizing the stroke. Notice how this is getting thicker. That stroke is getting thicker as well. That tells me that there may be some kind of cutout on this. So I'm going to undo it. So this is maybe something I want to try to isolate this onto another layer. And send a current layer. And that's, aha. So there's the problem. So this is a compound object. It has an outline object, and then it has an inner object that is a cutout. And we can verify that by drawing a random shape and sending it to the back. Let's make this shape a color so that we can actually see what we're doing. Just turn it into red. Oops, interesting. Well, whatever. Anyway, I was going to try to see if this was actually cut out or not. So, okay, so anyway, I didn't even have to do that. So if I right click on it and hit release compound path, now I can actually select these cutout bits separately. So if I do that with this also, I'm going to move this onto that layer 2. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to hit shift and click this as well. Move those all onto layer 2 just so that I can hide layer 1 and release the compound object. Right click, release compound path. I want to delete that inner layer, the inner part. Release compound path. There. Release compound path. There. Okay. So now notice if I go to properties and change the font outline. Notice the inside of the Rambo is not changing anymore, and that's more like what I wanted. So this is kind of, that might be just a tad thick. Maybe a little bit thicker than that. Let's try, it was a 5 was too much, 4 is too little. Let's try 4.5. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that, and I'm also going to select, I'm going to do shift click on these other things. Shift click, that's going to add these to the current selection. I'm trying not to undo my current collection. It's a little tricky with one hand. That's all I dare to try at this point. So I'm going to select that. Okay, and then I'm going to do that. And this is the eyedropper tool. If you select something and use the eyedropper tool on another object, it will copy the style of that object. So if you have a line that is it will copy the line thickness, it will copy the color. So I'm basically using this to copy this line style. So okay, so there's one version of how you can do this. You can have that as a fill in and outline. So another thing that we could do is we could do the inverse of that. So I'm going to copy all this because I think the easiest way to get the inverse of this is going to be to simply copy it and switch the colors that way. So when I'm doing an inverse of a black and white object, I sometimes find it useful to use a third color in the intermediary process of this. So say I pick this before, instead of making, I want to make this outline part filled with black, but if I start out by filling it with black, say by reversing the outline of fill color here, if I start out by doing that, it's going to make it kind of hard to see what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to start out with this, and I'm going to change it to an intermediary color, in this case red, FF0000. So notice how that is now solid red. Now the reason that we can't see the black at all is because it's on layer 2. So I am going to click, and while I'm holding down the click, I'm going to drag that layer below layer 1. So let's see. Oops. Okay, well, that didn't make it go away. Well, let's try clicking on it. Let's do that this way. Right click on it and arrange send to back. There. Now we can see the red on top of the black. So I am going to do something else here. I'm going to make another layer, and okay, I clicked on that. I selected all this stuff. I'm going to put it on another layer so that I can search for a specific color and then get rid of it. So I'm actually just going to do this the same way I did that before. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Control Z. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, so let's see, I may be able to just select all of these automatically. So that has a black fill. This other one has a black stroke. So I want to select everything that has the black stroke and make it have a red fill. Okay, so select same stroke color. And that's going to select everything with the same stroke. And notice some of this has a red fill, some of it doesn't. So it puts a question mark because they're different. So I'm going to put FF0000 and hit enter. Okay, so now these all have a red fill, I'm going to right click and arrange send to back so I can see what's in front of them. Okay, and now I want to get rid of the stroke on this. So there, I got rid of the stroke, so now you see you just got the red. So I kind of like this, but I might want that fill out there. So let's see, so those are still there, but why can't we see them? I don't know. Because they're on the wrong part of the layer, that's why. Let's see. So we wanted that part black. So now let's select the same fill color, which is black, and we're going to change this all to white. So white is, in RGB is FF. So now that's all white. Okay. So then we're gonna decide if we want those little bits engraved out, and I don't know if I want those little bits engraved out or not. Let's try range, bring the front, okay, and then hit Command Y. Why can't I see it? Oh, because it's red. Let's fill that with white and see what it looks like. Yeah, well, I actually do kind of like that. Okay, so I guess maybe we better do that. So, oops. So I gotta click that, and then I gotta hit Shift when I click this, and hit Shift when I click this, and those are the only holes that didn't come out. The A does not have a hole in it. So I'm gonna hit Y, and then I'm gonna grab my eyedropper tool. Hopefully this will just work, and select that. Okay, success. Okay, so now everything that we want to have black is now red. So and we put the white stuff as white. So let's select something that's red, has a red fill, and now we're going to select the same fill color, and that selects everything that has the red fill. We're going to now go back to having this black, which in RGB is 00, 00, 00, 00. Okay, so this is version 2 of this logo. So we have a couple of different versions of this logo now. We've got basically just like a outline version. We have a version where the inside is engraved black, or where when this gets on a mug, it's going to turn into silver. And we have another version where it's going to leave that inside as the mug color, and it's going to have a silver outline around it, because everything that's black is going to be engraved right down to the mug, and it's going to be silver. Okay. My next video is going to show how to make a realistic looking proof using the clipping mask tool, and that way you will be able to take these logos and put them on a mug and be able to figure out which one you actually like, and or be able to send those mock-ups. This is how to make mock-ups, how to send those mock-ups to your client and see which one your client prefers. It's always better to let the client have a mock-up and let them pick, so that they're when they receive it, they're not like, oh, that's not what I expected. So that this helps to reduce unexpected reactions of, oh, that's unexpected. Okay.